To start the proceedings for today's session, I welcome all my distinguished guests and dear students to this session on entrepreneurship. Basically, it's our entrepreneurial business survival during COVID-19 challenges and way forward. Today's session is 8th in the list. And before I introduce my distinguished guests, I would like to just say a few words about this particular session. During this COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen a lot of changes happening in the businesses, especially the small and medium enterprises. We have seen them go bankrupt. We have seen them go out of business. We have seen loss of jobs, not just in Pakistan, but across the globe. And where challenges exist, the opportunities have also sprung up. We have seen that how small businesses have transformed themselves to online businesses. And it's the way that we are looking at the small businesses. Now, these small traditional businesses, they have turned to online or more modern techniques. And this has compelled us to look at how these changes are going to affect them in the future, what human resource policies and what strategic planning are they going to adopt for the future, because this pandemic, it's going to stay for some time. Even if the vaccine is available, still we are going to look at it very differently. And I would say it's going to be the new normal that we are now looking at this particular pandemic and how the things are going about. My name is Dr. Shoaib, and I am Director Research at Fatima Jinnah Women University, Rawalpindi. And with my co-host is, the co-organizer is Mr. Ahmad, who is from Sustainable Development Policy Institute. Now, with this brief introduction of what we are expecting out of this particular session, let me first come to the introduction of our distinguished panelists. Today's session is chaired by Engineer Jabbar, who is the Chief Executive of Auto Parts Manufacturing Industry and was the Chairman of Board of Pakistan Steel Mills and is also Honorary Consul General to Ukraine. He has held various positions as Vice President in FPCCI, Chairman, Site Association of Industry, and has chaired important committees, including the Research and Development Wing and WTO and FPCCI. He is also former board of member of Pakistan Institute of Management, member board of Export Processing Zone Authority, National Fertilizer Corporation, SSGC, Exide Limited Pakistan, and former member syndicate, Karachi University. He's also life member of SOC, CCI. He has been the member of Task Force on Industrial Policy and on Sindh Revenue Board. He's also a member of Public-Private Partnership Board, Government of Sindh. On education side, he is certified safety engineer and his specialization is in power systems. He has more than 4 decades of experience of engineering industry, power generation, trade and fiscal policies, numerous organizations. He has been heading numerous organizations and is also a member of numerous government delegations to WTO, G77 on WTO Ministerial Conference, G77 Havana, and so on and so forth. Welcome, sir, to this session. Our discussant today is Mr. Shamim Ahmad Khan Sahab, who is by background a civil servant of Pakistan, and he is retired as a secretary to the government, federal secretary. He has served in various regulatory bodies of capital market for more than 10 years, and his last assignment was the first chairman of Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan. Since leaving public service, he has been director of few companies. He is also board of governors of SDPI. Welcome, sir. Welcome, Shamim sir. Now coming to our distinguished panelists, I would start with Professor Dr. Kamariah Ismail. Professor Kamariah, her specialization is in entrepreneurship. She did her PhD from Hunter Center for Entrepreneurship, University of Strathclyde. She has more than 20 years of teaching, administrative, and research experience. She is an entrepreneur herself and is consultant for various organizations, including government organizations. During her tenure, she has headed various official portfolios, such as she has been the founding member of UTM, University Technology Malaysia Innovation and Commercialization Center. She has been the chairman board of directors for UTM MTDC Symbiosis program that deals with UTM spin-off companies. Then she is also the founding director of UTM Technology Entrepreneurship Center. Currently, she is on secondment to University of Technology, Brunei. There. And our second panelist is Dr. Anwar Shah from Quaid-e-Azam University, Islamabad. Shah Sahab is an associate professor at School of Economics, Qaid-e-Azam University. He got MPhil in economics from QAU and a PhD in economics from University of Melbourne, Australia. He is working on various research projects and has published articles in reputed journals across the globe. His research interest is in the area of behavioral and experimental economics, cooperation, social issues, organizational efficiency, Islamic economics, and finance. Mainly his behavioral and experimental economics, I would say, is it would be interesting to listen to him, because the behavioral change that we are looking at from a dynamic perspective in the economy. He is also working on applied projects related to philanthropy and support of students. And he has also initiated a business based on model of ballot committee. Our third panelist is Dr. Khizran Zehra. She specializes in entrepreneurship research and has her PhD in business administration from John Copping University, Sweden. Currently, she is working as senior lecturer at Tilburg University in Netherlands in Tilburg School of Economics and Management. Her area of research is in disadvantages, entrepreneurship, women entrepreneurship, and resourceful practices in constrained environments. And our fourth panelist is a distinguished, I would say, industrialist, consultant, and entrepreneur, Mr. Tahir Mahmood Chaudhry Sahab. Tahir Sahab is the president and CEO of Pakistan Institute of Entrepreneurship and is also executive director of Ovex Technologies. He is also president and CEO of Falcon Consulting Group. Tahir has been actively involved in the development of new startup companies and has the distinction of helping more than 200 young entrepreneurs establish their companies, their startup companies. And these startup companies have employed more than 750 young graduates. Tahir has also developed faculty training program focusing on industry academia linkages and has delivered countless trainings to faculty members of both private and public sector universities. This is an excellent initiative because I think there is a missing link between academia and industry even today. He is president of RIFA Advisory Council for Excellence and is also member of Corporate Advisory Council of SEEKS, NASC, and MAJU. Tahir is also regional coordinator for North of MIT Enterprise Forum and Cambridge Advisors Network. And because of these networks, he is constantly and continuously engaged in capacity development, incubation centers, and business plan competitions that happen around Pakistan in different universities and by different organizations. I thank all my distinguished guests of today's session for taking time out from their busy schedules. And I welcome you all to this session on entrepreneurial business survival during COVID-19, challenges and way forward. Before I ask our chairperson, Jabbar Saab, to proceed, I would just request one thing, that we have to remain within the time limits, the time allocation, as we have to close the session at 3:15 p.m. So I request all my panelists to kindly, what should I say, kindly limit within the time, kindly express your views or your presentations within the time that is allocated to you. Now I would request Mr. Engineer M.A. Jabbar Saab to open the proceedings. Sir.
First of all, I think, Dr. Saab, I'm thankful to you कि आपने काफी चीजें जो है you have made simplified for me, because you have introduced discussant, you have introduced the panelist, or the introduction has really influenced upon my own ability how to start with, because such a background of academia and such a background of Shamim Saab, who is really very near and dear, respectable for me. So let me, for the time being, balance this influence which has already overcasted upon me. So let me just start with, I think the topic before us is related to, and some of the suggestions, I mean, in the form of bullet points were given to us to talk about, but I think these bullets can extend to explain, and these bullets may not precisely be to the language in which these are expressed, but they will serve the purpose. So let me just be quick and be disciplined as advised by the organizer that we have to be within the time. And so we also make productive use of the time. So I'm my eyes on my my eyes are on my watch. So I think I will try to finish within the given time framework. First of all, I think the first bullet which I received, because on this subject in Federation of Pakistan Chamber of Commerce, we have been holding about 10 to 12 webinars, seminars. So we have also compiled a book on this, and there's a lot of material on the equivalent soft side. So many things in my mind with different types of people. We were talking with industry, with services, with agriculture, with so many people. So everybody had more or less national problems coming across, and most of the, I mean, say, sectors, they were feeling that not enough is being done. But against that, also, we had a prudent answer that there are resource constraints. So we were inviting State Bank of Pakistan, Ministry of Commerce, and all the line ministries to engage with on this subject. So let me come bit now quicker. So the first, I mean, say, bullet point, which I was just scanning at, effect of the pandemic on entrepreneurial activity at different levels: international, national, regional, local. So let's say we club it together, national and local, I mean, say, should mean the same, but however, the local has its own expression in terms of further national division at local levels. So let me just recall what we have been compiling with, and we have been talking with. Right from the beginning of the first wave, we were more or less talking about fiscal adjustments in the country for sort of entrepreneurial activities to stay or keep status quo, or if not, do not slide too much down. So for that, we were looking forward to the government for fiscal adjustments, and we were also looking forward towards monetary adjustments. And I think in the first wave, I should not have complained, but things went very slow, while all the governments, I mean, say, in other countries, if we are talking about international level, they were more, I mean, say, less worried about the livelihood, worried about the keeping the either status quo or moving a little further in economic growth in terms of assuring the least layoff from the employments. But however, we started from the 13% markups, and I remember I was voicing too much, I'm saying, being in the trade politics for the last 25 years on this issue, but state bank or central bank came very slow from 13% in gradual, you see, recessions and in gradual time frameworks. It was too late when the 13% was brought to 7%. So I would think that this definitely had a adverse input for the entrepreneurial activities, I must say, at all the levels of, you can say, delivery in Pakistan. Normally we are calling, I was a member board of SMEDA, so I know a lot about the figures and all that. We were talking about 4 million SMEs to exist. But then in SMEs in Pakistan, there is also perceived of 30 to 70% LSM and SME, which not as such so, because we have so many small entrepreneurs and small entrepreneurial activities in this country, whose number at different timings were even touching more than 5.2 million activities in through various researches were conducted in the SMEDA. Even those figures today also are not much disputed. But anyway, on the national level, we just found that on the monetary side, it was done too late. And then on the fiscal adjustment, it just appeared that the government, in order to sort of live up to the promises or to be made promises with the IMF, was under the pressure of keeping the revenue targets intact. So in the fiscal adjustment, a lot of new introductions were made in the, you can say, in the para tariffs. Other than the tariffs, you see such additional custom duties, regulatory duties, increasing the withholding taxes at the, I mean, say, lower level. This all together, you see, in the cost of economy of manufacturing, I would say, created a lot of problems for adjustment or carry forward effect in which entrepreneurial activity sustains with at least, I would say, marginal profits, but it may not sustain. But if the losses will continue to adversely affect, so. But it happened so. Anyway, the government was announcing at the national level about 1,200 billion rupees, sort of a package to just take care of. I also myself would always understand that given the constraints in the resources and given the present situation of paying off the old loans by acquiring new loans, yes, there was a really a critical level or over maturity, or I will say, I will not call it a matured level, but let's say, yes, there were some constraints. So in a way, we could not really, in the first phase, could come out with the success of practicing the notions with other nations were building. They had monetary situations which were more commensurate with the required growth and sort of least unemployment. But in our country, I think we didn't have much research based sort of strikes in making adjustments in the first way. Then in the first way, there were the problems in the national level. Some of the, for example, a province like Sindh, where I am stationed, they were more worried about the, you see, people, their health, and, against the vis-a-vis smart lockdowns and other activities which were sort of being advocated at the federal level. So in the Sindh alone, I can say that I remain chairman of the biggest industrial association. Still, I have engagements over there with my, colleague brothers who are sort of looking after these affairs. So we saw not only this estate, there are 6 other industrial estates in Karachi. They were almost closed for more than 3 months, you see. Now in such a 3 months, there was micro managed entrepreneurial activities. There were, you can say, S activities. Yes, of course, there were M activities which had capacity to sort of work it out responses. But in all the events, we saw a lot of layoffs of the daily wages, and a lot of, you see, cuttings in the contract employees. Now, at this stage, the government, again, the central bank came with the idea of asking to borrow 3 months equivalent salary from the central bank and pay the employees. But then again, the problem was that that was an interest bearing and active in Pakistan. I would not go into this debate that how formalized we have been in the registration activities like EOBI, SESI, and so many other, where we can acknowledge who should be the beneficiary and who should not be. But anyway, some of the things went. But let me also complain over here that my own research as a freelancer says that most of this money went to the large-scale manufacturing activities where the collaterals existed. I remember in the site alone, we had 100 complaints that the banks are not responding. So on our simple query, we came to know that there were no collaterals for them. So some of the adjustment central bank tried to make, but I think those were not practical. So the people who were at the lower levels are who needed to sort of go into the upper level of entrepreneurships, they really suffered a lot and they were highly deprived. Then another thing on the national level, I think which came to the rescue again was to roll over the 692 billion rupees of loans acquired again with markups, means there was no concession. The loan was just rolled over for a year and so, but the accrued markup was remained same. The same contracts which were during the period of 13%, 11%, 9% would stay to its values. And again, my own research says that this also went to those LSM groups which had already available space in their collateral and sanctioned amounts. So they were the most beneficiary. Let's say the people at the bottom who should be more cared in order to strengthen them or in order to sort of wherever we have been calling even playing field, non-even playing field. Anyway, let me confine to the national, efforts. But I think practically I would say they were more beneficiary to the people, I may say, who are in the large scale manufacturing with all these spaces to cover it. Now let's come, let me also talk about this regional and international. My observation is that as far as regional integration or learning lesson from each other and how to address these issues, I may say, I can say that I have never seen anywhere, though I am a member of the SARC and I was going to India. I visited India for 40 times at least in my last 15 to 20 years. And I've been also delivering lectures at various institutes and even FICCI and all that. So I think due to the SARC problems, political, I do not want to go into length, but even other regional countries as such did not have any sort of research-based cross-bordering of the information as how to deal with this entrepreneurial activities to stay, and not only to stay, but not to diminish should have been the main effort. So there we find that, yes, we had a lot of gaps, so we could not benefit from any such move or otherwise which was required to be. As far as international is concerned, I have a big complaint. I have been going in WTO right from 1990s. I mean, I have been going to join NGOs. I've been in the official delegates. I've been in several delegations. I would say the basic concept of IMF in the political economy or world trading rules, I would say, is based on sort of strengthening the, I would say, developing economies or the divide between development and development, I would say, to bring them at least to a reasonably good level and have share in the international trade. But I just see that WTO this time remain so silent. So all the individual nations, including Pakistan, I'm sure for all the reasons I can say, not only sure, but definite that in this scenario, the WTO did not exist. All the individual nations, including ourselves, we were really striking or striving or just doing whatever we thought is necessary and considered so. Even the academia side, I did not see much of the things coming to the policymakers, decision makers, to guide them, who would be otherwise more competent to give them more prudent, way out. Anyway, let me very quickly come, because my watch is also not sort of giving me much of the space. Resilience of entrepreneurs during pandemics and their crisis management strategies. Yes, I mean, I can say soon after opening, after 3 to 4 months, during this period, only export industry was allowed to open. I'm talking in Sindh, where I was observing so, minutely all these situations and participating in all discussions and webinar through severals. So I think over there also these divide between digitalization and non-digitalization, I say, remain more favorable to those who had the strength. So let's say it also then was going to the upper side. As far as lower side is concerned, it was causing qualitative problems. It was causing deception in a highly non-regulated system of ours. So that also did not really balance our interest in this situation. Now, innovative industries during COVID-19 crisis, I would say, yes, industries, I would say a little bit plus of M class, means on the LSM side, yes, they had the capacity to really work with, and that's why I think exports, if not stagnant, they stayed on rising. And as far as consumer economics is concerned, yes, some of the largest consumer economics industry, yes, they had ways and means to really face and challenge these crises. So things went well. Other than the people who were on the lower side, they still stayed, you see, not only stagnant, but I would say went onto the diminishing side or almost a marginal side and hardly to recover, I would say, in the future. Now, human resource management practices adopted by entrepreneurs during COVID-19, I say this is almost the same, how the industry sort of resolved this issue, how the HRM was practices were adopted. So that was more or less, it is a good sign that in this country, first time I saw that people started adopting the e-related means, started adopting the, other than physical context and all that things. So that also one can see that it helped in covering a lot of things, you see, in the service side sector, you see, on the restaurants, on other managements and so on. So let's say we were actually forced to learn some of the things which others were practicing. Managing supply chains for small business survival, I think it all disrupted, because for sure that on the import side, due to no decisions or non-stabilized decisions, I think this supply chain remained disrupted, especially the supply businesses get survival in a city like Karachi from the bazaar markets, and those bazaar markets were also closed because we could hardly identify where it is necessary to open, where it is necessary to close. Even I saw all the, small towers, in the center of the city were by force closed, though some of them, I would say, according to the notification, could survive and could open and remain part of the managing supply chain for small business survival. But I think it was an experience, and the first wave was only we were experimenting, and probably I think now we are in a better position to really, I think, deal with things. The public sector is also accordingly sort of restructuring its notifications and all that. So things are improving, but what the damage was done, I'm already done, and so many entrepreneur activities on the smaller side have diminished, and hardly I would say they would be recovering, because most of the focus by the central bank and the government still remains on those people who can assure to pay back or supply back. So that still remains the stigma of the whole economic system of this country. Then stability efforts of micro, small and medium enterprises. So I think I have already talked about this, how small is adversely affected and how the medium could really go into the HRM, sort of readjustment. As far as micro is concerned, I think it is badly damaged in this country. Women entrepreneur, their response to COVID, most of in Karachi, I've been in some media activities. I'm sort of myself would believe that the women on, you can say, contractual or daily wages are most employed in the garment and value-added textile for export industries. So these were, I would say, I was comfortable, and I would be still comfortable to say that they survived during this also, because the export industry was allowed to open. And under the export industry, there was no demarcation, 10% export, 5%. So that really gave a liberal view of taking care in those industries. Other than that, I'm saying in Pakistan, I don't think that women, I'm saying, except on agriculture side, on the other side is so dominant. In the service sector, yes, they have a marginal share, but I think that share also went due to this COVID closures and all that, during which at least 3 months, I can say that all the industrial states except exporting were closed. So you can just imagine that closure of all these activities would cause what, would mean what, and how they will come back. And finally, only just last minute, I would say that I was just reviewing United Nations, UNCTAD, and so many other organizations which are actually more interested in the stability, I would say, amongst the borders, stability, peace in the nations. But in Pakistan, I think, let me be very clear that today we feel that if there is any political stability or any swing, you see, that is because of these reasons that we have limited resources and government cannot respond. When we talk about the governments to become instabilized due to inflations and other things, I think this COVID has a special input. And in this special situation, all the nations, developed countries were more worried about their own people. Yes, they should be primarily, but then under the charter of United Nations, WTO, and all these other things, I did not find anything wherein we, I must say, in a special conditions of having been trapped in loans and acquiring loans to pay back loans in such a situation would be better off in terms of political stability had things been more liberally dealt by or based on the research by WTO or by other countries. Of course, the World Bank and all that started giving us some of the loans, but I mean, so one can fairly say that most of the loans in this country are meant to pay off the old loans. So I think over here, I would like to stop because my time was 15 minutes. So I'm sorry, I tried to do justice within these 15 minutes because this topic at least always invites me to talk for hours and hours. But I think the other academia and all that, what I see that will contribute more. So maybe at the end of the day or end of the session, we would be able to conclude some of the requirements which may be brought to the focus or attention of the GOP or public sector at national and local levels in Pakistan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jabbar Sahab. It was very enlightening. I would request you to kindly start the proceedings by inviting the panelists, sir.
Okay. So I think as per given order, I would now request Professor Kamariah Ismail to really enlighten us about the way she thinks on the subject entrepreneurial business survival during COVID-19 challenges and way forward. Since she's from some other country, so probably I think on the international, regional, local, how the cooperations should be there so that at least we could configure some of the recommendations. But I just feel that still international and regional cooperations and exchanging the lessons or the way they have been conducting in the similar like economies or even stronger like economies could be a benchmark for us to learn and sort of deal with the rest of the situation, which is ongoing with still predictability and unpredictability of recovering through the, I must say, what I see in the television, the vaccines been loaded minus 80 degrees, some of the vaccines, our own scientists do not call it to be working in our society. So Dr. Kamariah, please.
Ismail. Hello, somebody.
Yeah, it's okay, Dr. Sabah.
Good afternoon to all participants and the panelists. Can I share my slide? I try to share my slide.
Yes, before you do so, ma'am, may I request you to please turn off one of the devices? Are you using two devices?
Can you see my slide? Can you see my slide?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Prof, are you using two computers?
Sorry?
Are you using two computers? Are you logged in from two sites?
I'm not really listen to you.
Okay. Can we share your slides?
Yeah, I'm sharing.
Ahmad Sahab?
Yes, we will share your slides and maybe you can go on about talking about them.
You cannot see my slide?
Yes.
Yeah, this is my slide actually. Okay. Okay. Good afternoon to all again. And thank you to the organizer and inviting me to this conference. Actually, sorry. Actually, the voice is double. I don't know. And Mr. Jabbar was talking. I not
Excuse
very clear. Actually,
Dr.
I hope
Kamariah.
that you can listen my voice. Can you listen to me?
No, there's a lot of
Prof,
echo.
there is lot of echo.
First of all, my humble request to all the speakers, please turn off your mic. Dr. Kamariah, please, if you are using some mobile phone or a speaker with your desktop or laptop, please turn off that so that we can hear you. Otherwise, we are hearing echo of your voice so many times. All the speakers are requested to off their mic, please.
Okay, I start, yeah? Okay, I would like to share with you the impact of COVID-19 on economic
You can come, Dr. Sahiba, as a second and third speaker. In the meanwhile, we get the IT team to discuss this with her. Maybe we can have some other speaker now, and then in the meanwhile, we can discuss with her what is the issue, and then we can get it back online with a better voice, maybe.
So I think this is a good idea. Let us invite the second speaker, and meanwhile just work it out. What are the problems? So our second speaker is Dr. Anwar Shah, Associate Professor, Qaim University. Please, Dr. Shah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you. Can you hear me clearly? My voice is clear. Can you confirm so that I can start?
Yes, you may please.
Yeah, may I request Khawr Sahab to share my slide? Yeah, thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The paper which we submitted for the conference is actually broader. The name of our paper is an alternative approach for understanding the dynamics of developing economies from policy perspective. However, I would like to highlight only that part of my paper which is relevant to the theme of this panel talk, which is entrepreneurial and business survival during COVID-19 challenges and way forward. So let me say that entrepreneurial business survival, what do we require? What do we need? I am in slide 3, Howard. So what do we need, to Jabbar, Jabbar Sahib has already, provided a very groundbreaking background for my presentation. Because the main thing which is required for the entrepreneurial survival during any shock, including the COVID-19, is funds. Now the question is, what kind of funds are available within an economy? So I have divided it into 4 kind of funds, which is available in every economy, whether it is the economy of Pakistan or any other country. One, the first type of fund or capital is risk-free capital. These are the people who want their funds to be invested in a risk-free, and they want ex-ante, a fixed return. So this is the one type of funds available in the economy. The second is risk-bearing capital. These are the people or the fund provider who are interested to have their funds invested with profit and loss sharing. So they want, to share the risk with the entrepreneurs. The third kind of fund available within an economy is soft loans. These are the people who are willing to provide the funds, provided that the principal is returned to them within the specified time. And the fourth type of fund is philanthropic funds. It includes the charities and donation, which is available for free without seeking any return, even a principal. So now the question is, which type of funds, I'm on slide 4 now, which type of funds an economy need for entrepreneurial business survival during COVID-19. And out of these 4 types of available funds, which type of fund the entrepreneur were more interested? As Jabbar Sahib has already told, that most of the packages which were announced either by the State Bank of Pakistan, either by the government of Pakistan, they went mostly to the large scale businesses or entrepreneurs. So now I am dividing, which to the risk-free capital and the capital. This is not the requirement, particularly at the time of this shocks or COVID-19. So let's come toward the second type of capital. Yes, risk-bearing capital. If any entrepreneur, they are provided a risk-bearing capital, the capital which will bear the loss and profit with them, they will be happy to accept such kind of fund. The third kind of soft loan, yes, any entrepreneur would love to have such kind of funds if it is available, and it is available in the economy. And the fourth type of fund is philanthropic funds. As Jabbar Sahib has told, there are many small kind of businesses who shut down, who lost their businesses just because of the no availability of funds. So these 4 out of these 4, the first one, the entrepreneurial survival required, not the first one, but rather the rest of the 3, risk-bearing, soft loan, and philanthropic fund. Now the question is, what is the major challenges? This is the thing, which I would like to highlight in my presentation. The only institution which deal with the funds is the first one, the only institution in the form of the banks, financial intermediaries. They only deal with the first type of capital, which is a risk-free capital. They accept deposits, they extend loans, and they give return in the form of interest to the depositors and ask returns from the investor or entrepreneurs. So this is the only institution which deal. Now, what is the problem? There are 3 kind of funds available in the economy, and which is very crucial for the survival of entrepreneurs. But the problem is that there is no institution which deal with 2 kind of thing regarding these funds. The first thing is information about the availability and existence of this fund, that who are willing. Let's say the second information might be available. There might be people who are interested to bear the risk. But what about the people who are interested even to give soft loans, provided that they will get their principal back? So this is the main challenges, So what is the major challenge regarding the entrepreneurial business during COVID-19? Had we been able to collect such information that, about these 3 kind of funds, soft loans, or risk-bearing fund, and philanthropic, so we would have been in a better position to provide such kind of funds for the survival of entrepreneurs during COVID-19. So I can say, out of the 4 fund, only 1 over third, that 33% fund is dealt by the banks and by the formal institution. But we have no formal institution to deal with the 67% of the available fund, which is the economic forces which exist within the economy, but due to the lack of institutional structure, we are unable to take this fund from those people who are willing to give it to those people who are willing to accept it. So there is lack of. So what is the way forward? So I'm on slide 7. So what is the way forward? We have to develop institution, and I have written these terms 2 times. We have to develop institution. This is just for emphasizing this. We have to develop institution for what? Which have the mandate to collect information about 67% of the fund in economy and transfer such funds towards enterprises in a way that is transparent, in a way that is efficient, in normal time, and particularly in a situation such as the COVID-19, where the businesses are much more in need of such kind of funds. So in summary, I would like to summarize my presentation that there are 4 types of funds available for the survival of enterprises, for the need of entrepreneurship. And out of those 4, the entrepreneur during shocks are more interested in the risk-bearing assets, soft loans, and philanthropic funds. However, the current institutional framework in Pakistan, locally and with across the globe, there is no such institution who deal with the risk, who deal with these 3 kind of funds. So what we need an institution which should collect information. And this paper is basically written by the first author is Dr. Muhammad Fahim Khan Saab, who is a senior economist. So we collect a rough information about the philanthropic funds available within Pakistan based on the family types. We have divided the family types into 4. First, we call basically it is 2 entrepreneur families and wage families, are those families whose our livelihood depends on the wages. So on the basis of such kind of types of families, and you will be surprised to listen from me this word, that we have calculated per annum philanthropic donation estimation. We estimated that so much philanthropic fund is available within Pakistan. It was from 5 billion to 6 billion US dollar. And if someone of you is interested to know more about this, so I can provide that rough calculation, but that is on the basis of the Pakistanis family structure. So this is what I have all to say, and thank you all. If you have any question, I would love to respond. That's all from my side. Thank you too much. Thanks so much.
So thank you, Dr. Saab. I think I really liked the way you came to the main points where I think maybe on our recommendation side, we'll work it out. And let me tell you that the political instability and the sustainability of instability is diluted by these philanthropists. The Karachi alone, you see, you talked about 5 billion to 6 billion US dollars. I do not dispute with you. And I would even sometimes think that this figure is more, because in Karachi alone, you see, the taxes collected from Karachi, about 34%, we estimate that equivalent of 34% of taxes collected are contributed by philanthropists in Karachi. And out of this, 89% do not wish to be named. But then this is being, sort of distributed due to lack of institutionalized information which is placed instead of development economics. It is more healing in the consumer economics to spend and its utility. Otherwise, as you were mentioning, so need of institutionalization, all that would still stay alive. So I would be highly interested in these figures more. And my email would be available with SDPI. So kindly do forward me. So thank you very much in the sense that your presentation really gives me hope that people are really focusing on what is required. So in dealing with challenges of the situations like COVID-19. Thank you, Dr. Saab. I'm really grateful to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So let's go. Thank you, Dr. Saab. Let's go to the third speaker, Dr. Khizran Zehra. I'm University, Netherlands. So let me invite you to please contribute.
Thank you so much. I want to make sure first that all of you hear me. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
It's okay. Please carry on.
Okay. So I will try to share my presentation now. Okay. So if you cannot see my screen or is there any problem with my voice, please let me know. So in line with this topic today on entrepreneurship in this coronavirus crisis, my presentation is on micro entrepreneurs in Pakistan. And it's particularly about the resourceful behaviors among small entrepreneurs, micro entrepreneurs. And the agenda for today's presentation is that I will talk about so there's this small background of the project that I will give, and I will give you this conceptual clarity about the conceptual frame that we have used about resourcefulness during adversity in entrepreneurship, the empirical context, and some preliminary findings. The framework that has been used is resourcefulness, and we know that during these current times, we are talking about shared economy, we are talking about circular economy, sustainability. So the jargons like Slack or having huge resources with entrepreneurs and organizations. These are traditional approaches in organizational and entrepreneurship literature. So the resource constraint driven approaches are very, very useful for the young entrepreneurs to become resilient, as the earlier speakers have also mentioned about the resilience and recovery against shocks, especially for the young entrepreneurs. It's very important. And this project is coming along from a long time. It's from the 3 years. It started with my PhD, and now we are developing it in different directions. We have developed different projects from this bigger project. Like I have also listed few papers from this project. So we are developing it on Afghan micro entrepreneurs, Hazara entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs. So we are basically looking at more disadvantaged community of entrepreneurs in Pakistan. This framework is important. It has been developed in sociology and in psychology, but it's relatively new in organization and entrepreneurship literature. And it's about the notion of jugaad that we also use, that how you can combine things creatively, but efficiently with like minimal resources and very simple resources. You come out of the situation, you come out of the shock, and you recover and you become resilient. Now, response to adversity is resourcefulness, but adversity that we have looked before Corona was adversity as an event. For example, the earthquake in Pakistan in 2005, that was an adverse event that was happened one time, and then it was very troublesome, it was disturbing, it was disruptive to the well-being of community. But then now coronavirus, the COVID has caught us really globally, all of us unprepared, and it's persistent adversity. So now we are also, as a researcher and scholar, thinking about adversity in more continuity term. So this is new, and we need to look at the resourceful strategies in this way. Like if adversity is not going and it's continued and it's just imposing continuous pressure on all of us, so how we can look at the well-being in terms of individual and collective level. So now well-being is basically the functioning of community as a whole. It addresses the psychology, it addresses the competencies, it addresses autonomy and well-being of whole community. So not just individuals, it's organization and community as a whole. The empirical context solely comes from Pakistan for this chunk of study. And basically it has now spread to India, and we are also trying to do it in Netherlands here. But this chunk of study is from entrepreneurs from Pindi, Islamabad, and Quetta. We have entrepreneurs from Afghan origin, we have entrepreneurs from Hazara community, and we have also entrepreneurs from locally Pakistani-based entrepreneurs. But it's a nice sample because it's a nice composition of male and female businesses. This was something that was happening before. I'm not going into the resourceful behaviors. For this, I have listed the studies. You can see more in depth if you are interested. But the main strategy that was gluing these micro entrepreneurs, resource constrained entrepreneurs together was this collaboration, this collaborative value creation. You have some adversity, you want to adapt, you want to be resilient, survive, and recover out of it because of jugaad, because of your resourceful strategy. And collaboration is one big resourceful strategy because you have the small horizontal family social capital, then it develops further, it accumulates to vertical, then you develop bridging ties across generations, especially in Afghan entrepreneurs. We see that the pace of developing network is very slow in Hazara and Afghan entrepreneurs as compared to the Pakistani-based entrepreneurs because they are well integrated in the society. But now persistent adversity has changed everything because we have this concept of space that is changed. We have to maintain social distancing. We have to maintain, we have less traveling. We cannot collaborate. We cannot socialize on daily basis. So this has changed everything. And I'm not going into the challenges. We are all aware of this chaos and panic and well-being has been affected, loss in sales and formal markets are really competitive. So the resourceful strategies that were, at least in the preliminary findings, we saw that they are trying to be resourceful again, not in the first wave because it was a big panic, big chaos, but now micro entrepreneurs, they have started to develop, they have altered their business concepts. For example, they would come online. They would there's just lots of grocery stores. They have started developing their another product line like hygiene product. If they are stitching, they were in the garment industry. They have started stitching masks. So it has also business concept alteration. There's also this local community engagement, which also earlier speakers have mentioned that this philanthropic aspect, the community engagement aspect, it's very local resources have been used because you're not traveling, you're not importing goods, you're focusing on street vendors, you're focusing on local community. So this has also given some opportunity for these small micro entrepreneurs, the street vendors even. Online presence, online marketing, social media is important. Lots of freelance working has been started for young entrepreneurs or fresh graduates who didn't have any job because of coronavirus, who just graduated, let's say 2020. So there's this booming gig economy because you have smartphone in your hand, you have lots of applications, and then you can be part of this, freelance community, and you can work full-time and part-time. So there are also some hopes there. But then what is the entrepreneurship look like in this post-COVID world? So now we have to be prepared adversity in more continuity and in more persistence, which means that we need to look at more, not just short-term goals, which is more, a sense of this micro entrepreneurship. They're looking at short-term goals, one step at a moment. We will survive, we will look for it. But I think for now, it's okay because it creates less panic. It is more effective for your well-being. But in the longer term, when post-COVID world is there, we have good lessons from this COVID because there can be different adversities. Corona is just one of those maybe. So what I think and what we think from this research is that the main challenge was IT system. There was this social media presence, but there were no proper IT support system was available to these micro entrepreneurs because they were not trained. There were no facilitation. So, and then the vision is very smaller because we are looking at this very local, small community level. Maybe we should think big also. Because if we look at all the entrepreneurs, they are necessity-based entrepreneurship. They were into entrepreneurship because they had some problem, unemployment, less resource. Why not just develop this culture of entrepreneurship in which we celebrate entrepreneurship? It should be, they can be sport entrepreneurship, they can be lifestyle entrepreneurship, they can be cultural entrepreneurship. There's lots of margin. So this relevant academic training needs to break the stereotype that entrepreneurship can only be necessity-based. It can be a proper career. It can be opportunity-based entrepreneurship also. Local entrepreneurial ecosystems are very important. And when I say local entrepreneurial ecosystem, I'm not talking about very sophisticated and competitive phenomena like Silicon Valley. I'm talking about small local ecosystem. For example, when I did my PhD, this event industry is booming in Islamabad and Pindi. And now in E11, there are lots of marquees and big hotel and industry, and they're all combining. And because of this, small entrepreneurs are also blooming, like flower shops, small, garment industry. So they're also blooming. So we need to think about local entrepreneurial ecosystems. And I, as an academia person or as a researcher, think the universities can play a major role here because they can bring lots of people together from industry, from micro entrepreneurs, because not every idea is a great opportunity. So they can work on those ideas, on those opportunities and look for funding because then it can incubate and accelerate. I mean, let's look around us in Pakistan, how many business incubators and accelerators we have. So we need to think about reciprocity because Pakistan is a philanthropic nation. We believe in reciprocal exchanges, as my earlier speaker also mentioned. It's a ground reality that we believe in that. And whenever we have these kind of shocks, we try to survive back. We are a nation that is resilient. We have this cultural narrative of resilience. So we need to look into this. Quality standards, our micro entrepreneurs are not aware of intellectual property rights. They're not aware of patents. So we need to educate them on different levels. There's no platform for payments. micro entrepreneurs, they work on cash on delivery, they work on wages, they work on cash payments. So this was my last point, that we also need to think about different, like PayPal didn't work in Pakistan. So it's not very widely used still, at least at the micro level. So we need to think about proper secure payments. Maybe banks can be involved. There could be some way out of it, which should ensure secure payments so that they can think globally. They can think about Afghan markets. They can think about Bangladesh. They can think of, because now with this slow social media and IT platforms, things are also, there are lots of opportunities as well within COVID. So these are certain suggestions from our preliminary findings. And yeah, thank you so much. And any comments or suggestions, since it's a work in progress, or any questions, they're more than welcome. Thank you so much.
So, Dr. Sabah, thank you very much. I think your lecture, I would say that your presentation mainly divided into, I would not use the word wishful, but of course, a club of suggestions, which I think I must say validate itself for being considered as should be. Otherwise, you also talked about quality levels and all that. Since in my own sort of brief to the people who are participating, I said that this e-commerce related or innovative entrepreneurship, in the absence of regulatory frameworks and payment systems and other things, are causing a lot of problem in this society. I mean, so that is also creating mistrust in the system. I mean, so you order something, you receive something else. The payment system is more on the cash than anything else. So these problems are still there. So rightly, you have also asked for. And then one thing which I liked, which I have been talking since the last 2 decades, that probably the universities should always play a role in the given situation to sort of advise the decision makers in Pakistan, who are most of the time, rather all the time, are generic type due to our own colonial type of system of governance. So I think universities need to play a role. And you rightly went from adversity to the persistent adversity. And then I think about micro entrepreneurship and recovery, you showed some hopes. And I'm also hopeful in a given situation. The pessimism to cross border to the optimism also remains my desire. So thank you very much for sort of being with us, and also for the generous offer that your own suggestions would sustain to be carried forward or added if deemed so required by us for our own education. Thank you very much, Dr. Sabah. Now let me come to the, I must say, first speaker, I must say, who due to IT problems or something could not be heard. Professor Dr. Kamariah, Ismail again, please.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. Good afternoon. I try to show my slide again, yeah. Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Jabbar, and thank you also to Dr. Shaib inviting me for this conference, and nice meeting you all and then other participants. Yeah. So currently, actually, I seconded to Brunei, University Technology Brunei. I was working with University Technology Malaysia, so I can compare between 2 countries, the impact of COVID. But actually, I did not do primary research. Actually, I not collect the data and so on. My research is based on the based on the secondary data. Yeah. So this is, if you look at this, Brunei is a small country only. It was in Malaysia. But separate in 1963, if I'm not mistaken. So if you look at Brunei, and then this is Malaysia, West Malaysia and East Malaysia, Sabah and Sarawak, and then the population in Malaysia is 30 million, but population in Brunei is only 400,000. Very small country, and surrounded by Malaysia. And then actually part of Malaysia in Brunei actually. Okay, next slide please. Yeah, yeah. I think COVID actually came to Malaysia. I think I do not need to explain this. Came to Malaysia in March. And then if you look at the Brunei actually the COVID was from Malaysia. It was religious gathering in Petaling, Sri Petaling Mosque. So yeah, next. I cannot control my slide from here, right? Yeah. Can you go to the next slide, please? The impact of COVID actually is, I think it's not only Pakistan, but all countries. Big economic disruption and distress around the world. Can you go to another slide? Please. Another slide, please. I cannot control my slide from here.
Dr. Kamariah, are you there?
So is there still a problem in communications?
Yes. I think we'll have to go to Tahir Sahab again.
Okay, so let's go to Tahir Sahab and again wait. And if there would be a post clearance, we can again connect. Okay. So let me invite Tahir Mahmood Chaudhry. I think his introduction, I must say, makes me to believe that we are going to learn a lot of things, I must say, in a shortest time. And let me hope so that this may constitute to be a very important part of our recommendation, which we are looking forward to be met. So, Mr. Tahir Mahmood Chaudhry, please.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. My presentation has two portions. First of all, thank you very much from SDPI and Fatima Jinnah Women University, and salam to all my eminent scholars and speakers from the industry and academia, and my dear students and faculty members who are listening us with the number of 89 at the moment. My presentation has two portions. One is pre-COVID and the other one is post-COVID. We were working on a pace in Pakistan especially, and the whole globe was working, academia and industry, on the same pace. The digitalization part was on the way to take portion in the industry, in operations as well as in academia for the operations, in healthcare, if you can say, in manufacturing sector, in aviation, or in so many other areas. So we were working on artificial intelligence before the COVID, before 15th of December 2019. The expectation was that we will have complete digitalization after, say, 9 to 10 years, a decade, because the pace we were following was very slow. In our academia, in our universities, we were not able to do the online education part. We were not able to invite speakers for conference. Very rare. We have to import them via airline, and we were spending a lot of money for one speaker for this 20-30 minutes or 40 minutes talk in our conferences and seminars and workshops. Similarly, I am President Computer Society of Pakistan, as well as 7, 8 other organizations. So I have a heavy mandate or heavy agenda of visiting in Pakistan and other countries for the conferences, seminars, and lectures. In Pakistan, my lecture was costing around 100,000 rupees with the airline, hotel, and my residence. And we were planning to have this model which we are producing, we are sharing in Pakistan in, you can say, a virtual university. The largest university in Pakistan was working online, but their lecture was recorded and all the other material was available. And simultaneously, there was another university where there were a printed material going through postal and courier services, that is Allama Iqbal Open University. Then if you consider the portion of manufacturing sector or transportation sector, aviation sector, and industry at large, so there were truly very difference in actual digitalized activities, supply chain management, online shopping, e-commerce, and we were planning to have this in 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 years. One big chunk of academia, say we have 217 universities in Pakistan. We have 500 plus campuses, including the medical colleges and universities. They have another 200 of chunk, and they have different campuses. So if we consider 500 universities and medical colleges in Pakistan in terms of campuses, so learning management solution, the campus management solution, the ERP at large, where the whole ecosystem or whole life management of a student, faculty, and staff, and the whole operations of the university in terms of supply chain management, in terms of planning, in terms of budgeting, in terms of financial management. In Pakistan, there was no single university who were able to do this all automation, all activities through digitalization up to the alumni management, starting from the admission up to the alumni management. So we were expecting that it will take 4, 5, 6 years, 7 years to accomplish this target. But after 15th December 2019, we came across a new world, and that is starting post-COVID. In post-COVID, first few days, we were in a trauma that all the classes were halted, universities were closed, the businesses were closed, we had a lockdown, somewhere it was a smart lockdown, and so on and so forth. But in a short period of 30 days, we had a conference or sort of training or workshop through HEC, and we have invited 450 plus faculty members from the whole country's institutions. You can say one from each university or each campus. And we discussed what are the way forward to continue the education. So we decided to have multiple options, multiple softwares, multiple channels to continue our education. Online education was one part. There was a huge resilience from faculty members that how we can act on a camera to teach our students. Then we had trainings, online trainings for those teachers and students. Even we had a session for parents that how they can manage this post-COVID situation and continue the education. First of all, my humble request to all the listeners and for the decision makers or policy makers, that please understand this is a special world now. We have to mold ourselves. We have to tune ourselves. We have to change ourselves to cope up with the new situation. No panic is required, believe me. We are facing a lot of problem with Dr. Kamariah Ismail for the connection. Take it easy, no problem. We'll have her after this session, or we have the presentation with us. If we don't even able to understand or have her presentation, there is no blast. Take it easy. Similarly, if some student can't pass his or her education or degree or his semester in this time, nothing will happen, I guarantee you. But we have to understand that how we can overcome this situation. So I have 11 points to share my experience how to handle this COVID situation with the entrepreneurial activities. Let me share good news for you. While we are discussing the 18,000 aircrafts were grounded, 18,000 aircrafts throughout the world. The aviation industry was collapsed. The tourism industry was collapsed. All the hotel and restaurants were not able to continue. Still, there are a lot of problems. But then came another makeshift arrangement, and that is e-commerce, e-business, e-health, e-education. So we are working in Pakistan on all these areas. Let's start from the healthcare sector. I have one case study with me, and that is my wife's healthcare checkup. I'll start from that. This is the true story. This is the real picture, let me tell you. She had infection in her eye, and we were not able to visit hospital because the doctor and the hospital was refused, our eye specialist, that I'm not visiting hospital, so you can have this checkup. So I just made, with this mobile phone camera, these pictures of her and sent to the doctor. And doctor, after examining and have 2 or 3 minutes discussion, he advised that this eye drop, 1 drop 4 times daily, Nebra eye drop, 1 drop 4 times daily, Polyfax eye ointment at night. This was advised for 1 week, and then review. We have to change ourselves. We have to have a new life management style. We have to understand our limitations, and we have to understand our strengths. We cannot stop our medication. We cannot stop our life management, but we have to change our mindset. We have to learn new things. We have to learn new areas. Coming back to this healthcare, then we were discussing the education sector. In healthcare, we worked on e-health, m-health, mobile health. We are having trainings. We are connecting doctors, paramedics with the patients remotely. And this is happening, and this is going rapidly in Pakistan, that people are supporting on a Facebook. We can see daily they are making a lot of groups, authentic doctors, with the help of PMDC. They are supporting, they are taking care of their patients, and so on and so forth. In supply chain, there is a tremendous change. Now, for example, in Pakistan, plus minus 40% restaurants are closed permanently for good, because they can't afford rent while they are not operating. They can't pay their staff because they are not operating. So now they are opening kitchens in basements of some house or some plaza, and they are doing deliveries through riders. Now there is another business woke up, and that is online deliveries. I will share with you my students who had developed some websites, some portals, and some businesses in this pandemic situation. Now we have to multiply this micro entrepreneurial activities throughout Pakistan. Either it's agriculture sector, either it's healthcare, either it's courier companies, either they are in education, either they are any walk of life. So we have to understand our new life management. We are calling new norms, new normals. So our new normals must be changed, first of all. Secondly, if we recall history for 200 years, this type of pandemic came after every 100 years. And the span is around 1 year or 2 years. After 1 year or 2 years, the life will be normal, and we will act accordingly who will be here on this planet. So we have to understand that, yes, we have to manage. The aviation industry, they have to change their model, they have to change their lifestyle, they have to change their seating arrangement, they have to change their social distancing management so that they can handle. Hotel industry, social media and delivery of content. This area is expanding like anything. Let me tell you, we are working for 450 universities and medical colleges to have their lectures recorded online and multiply it to other universities. For example, if one teacher is delivering a lecture on entrepreneurship, there's no need to multiply it for 400, 200 students, teachers. We'll have one lecture and we will multiply it to 350 universities. We are working on that. So this is a big opportunity to have this recording rooms, to have this recording lectures. I'm talking to you through this very camera, which is purchased in April. This ring light is also purchased to handle this pandemic education, e-education and e-health situation, and my professional marketing, because I'm working in a software house, I'm running a call center as well as I'm running an institute. So for 3 organizations, I'm sitting in my dining room at the moment, but this is my whole office, this is my whole studio, this is my whole class, this is my meeting room for my commercial meetings. So we have to change our lifestyle. Social media, after that, online doctor, we discussed net meetings, Microsoft, Google, Zoom, StreamYard, Ikracity. By the way, during this pandemic, we developed a similar software for net meeting by the name of Ikracity. We are running a conference for the last 5 days, and 2 more days are there, today and tomorrow. And this Ikracity software is launched in this conference, and this is made in Pakistan, net meeting software like Microsoft, Google, Zoom, and StreamYard. So this is a new birth of software due to pandemic. So we have to change our mindset. ERP solutions and ERP solution development for academia and industry. This is at the peak of last 20 years. We had in the conference yesterday, we had a panel discussion for 1 hour on this very topic, that how we can manage and how we can multiply this ERP solution in Pakistan in industry and academia, both. And we are working in government as well. We are working with Pakistan Software Export Board, we are working with Ignite, Ministry of Telecom, PTCL, and all top mobile companies to cope up with this situation, to provide students the connectivity at very minimal cost and at far-flung areas. So with this, we will have cooking and distribution. So many housewives and so many restaurants, they are providing businesses or deliveries to hostelites, semi-hostelites, or other areas where this is required. Now I will share with you the impact of Zoom, StreamYard, Microsoft, Amazon, and their businesses. These skyrocketing businesses, let's only discuss the Zoom. Zoom prosper in this pandemic. So if there is a problem in pandemic, but there are advantages in pandemic as well. Some companies are making revenues and profits like skyrocketing. So I'm at the end of my presentation. I'm just 2 slides.
I'm sorry, Mr. Tahir Mahmood. I think since we are closing to the targeted closure time, so can you just either wrap it up or wind it up in 1 minute's time?
Yes, thank you very much. This is my last slide. We have to understand new norms. We have to understand the new life management styles, and we have to understand macro and micro levels of entrepreneurship with respect to the opportunities in Pakistan or in any other country, and with respect to the available resources. And we have to change our mindset psychologically as well. We have to work on our students, faculty members, industry, society, that we are working in a new world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tahir Mahmood. I think we learned the sort of lot of suggestions, or I would say advices from you. I'm said to head towards digitalization was the main crux. I can understand you have forecasted 9 to 10 years, but in my opinion, it will take not less than 25 years in a country like Pakistan. So, but let's hope so. But then you also talked about efficiency. One lecturer for 500 universities. That is like suggesting cutting the job, probably not liked by so many people. And then, one thing which I would still think that you should keep on working, that is micro entrepreneurial companies, support to them. That is most necessary. So let us now come to the, is Kamariah will be back, or should I ask our worthy discussant to come on the contribution?
Okay, I can continue my discussion.
Please. Okay, please continue.
Yeah. Sorry about the line. So I just go very quick because now is in Brunei is 6:15 already. It's Maghrib already. So if you look at the price index between Malaysia and Brunei, Malaysia, the price index, if compare July and August, is down to 1.4%. And then meaning that it decreased the spending of the consumer. You compare with Brunei, Brunei is increased. Can you go to the next slide, please? We compare to Brunei. Brunei is increasing of the price in Brunei because of the cost of transportation. Many products are actually imported from Malaysia. Yeah, if you look at Malaysia, the price of index decreased due to the decline in transportation, housing, water, clothing. And then overall, the decrease is 45.7%. Yeah. But if you look at the food, health, education, the figure almost the same. Can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, this is Brunei. Brunei, as I said just now, the consumer price index is increased. Can you go down to another slide, please? Yeah. This is actually Brunei increasing in price because of the cost of transportation, because of another thing is Brunei is a small country. They're not producing not many industry in Brunei actually. Most of the food or other products came from Malaysia, imported from Malaysia. So that's the problem I can see in Brunei. Yeah. Can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, we look at the impact of tourism. I think this is the most infected in Malaysia. If you know, Malaysia has 3 airlines, Asia, Malindo Air, Malaysia Airlines. They have to cut the salary. They have to lay down the employees. And then if you look at the Chinese government, after a certain time, they cut the movement of 75% passengers or tourists from other country. They block. So this is effect to the other country as well. It's not a very limited movement. Can you go to the next slide, please? You look at this. The hotel cancellation. This is, I got it from Hotel Association in Malaysia. You look at this, the total room cancellation, 170,000. Yeah. And then the largest cancellation in Kuala Lumpur town. And then the losses due to this cancellation is nearly almost 70 million in ringgit Malaysia. Can you go to the next slides, please? Yeah, this is the impact of number of workers laid off. You look at this, the total The total facing unpaid leave is nearly 10,000. Number of workers facing pay cut is 5,000 something. Number of workers being laid off is 2,000 something. This is based on the 54,000 something sampling size. Can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, because in Brunei, I difficulty to get the data. Yeah, the data is most from the AMD. AMD Brunei is like a national bank in Brunei. So it's due to COVID, the losses is around 0.1 to 0.4% losses in terms of GDP, or we can convert to US 77 billion. Next, please. Yeah, retailing in business in Brunei. If you look at this, because Brunei, if you look at this, you look at the map, Brunei is in the middle of Malaysia. So the government actually blocked the movement of, they closed the border. So people cannot go to Malaysia to buy things. Normally they move to Miri, the nearest place in Sarawak, to buy food, to buy grocery. So because of the COVID, government closed the border, the retail business in Brunei increased 1.6%, yeah, 1.6%, and then the retail sales increased about 311 million US dollars, yeah. And then also for the telecommunication and computer, it increased due to the almost students and then businesses using online business. Yeah, can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, yeah, the retailing food sector in Malaysia also increase, and then the spending is a 34% increase, but the overall spending on credit card is a decrease 12%, because people really interested to buy cash, because many consumers they think that it's uncertain about the income and so on. Can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, if you look at the forecast, the forecast FMB in Malaysia will be 347 millions in 2020, and then they will increase to 14.5%, which is 600 million by 2024. Can you go to the next slide, please? So if you look at it, I think a lot of measures by the government, we call it prihatin, caring for people. They give us stimulus package to the SMEs, to the people, the frontliners, about 260 billion Malaysian ringgit to stimulus the economy. And then you look at this, a lot of government spend on they extended the loan to those who owe the loan from the banks. Ministry of Entrepreneurial and Cooperative Development, we call it MARA, which this agency is helping micro enterprise to grow. So all this given extended the loan given to them to extend about 6 months. And then if you look at this discount about 50% of electricity bills, and then reduce exemption, tax exemption of 6% to the industry, tourism like hotels, companies engaged in travels, and then you look at this, and then for the medical staff in frontliners, they give extra bonus, extra income about 400, And then for the EPF Provident Fund, reduced to 11 to 7%. Yeah, all this actually try to help SMEs and the workers who laid off by the companies. Can you go further? Yeah. Also in Brunei, Brunei actually spent about 450 millions, around 3.2% of GDP to stimulate the economy. And then also they give 400 monthly allowances for doctors for the frontliners. And then waive interest on loans for 3 months. If you look at in Malaysia, extended to 6 months, but Brunei only 3 months. Can you go to the next slides, please? Yeah, if you look at this, the way forward for both countries, I can see that in Brunei, is lack of encourage FMB entrepreneurs and graduate entrepreneurs. There are number of unemployment, graduate unemployment increasing in Brunei. So this is time actually the government should encourage. Actually, they are encouraging the graduate to involve with the entrepreneurship. But as our earlier speaker says, that the ecosystem must be there, because Brunei is a oil and gas country and considered developed country, rich country. So before this, so when COVID happened, it's like a shock and panic. So suppose the government spend a lot of money on the online, on the IT system, train the entrepreneurs to do online business and so on. And then I can see that the government actually encourage local tourism industry. And then if another virus we don't know yet this COVID will be ended when actually, but it's become part of our life. We have to adapt a new normal, and then we have to think about the we have to think tourism industry is not as I can see that it's not as a industry that can boom economic in a country. Yeah? And then again, in Brunei, I can see that a slow process of the postal services. So government should encourage, should do more things to encourage online business for micro company. That's all I think for myself. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kamariah. I think one thing which I would appreciate that some of the measures, relief measures by the government would definitely encourage us to compare with the nature of relief measures. I cannot talk about the amounts because we are too rich as compared to our country. So, but at least as far as the nature is concerned, we will compare. Thank you very much. And it is like a lesson to learn from you. But one thing in your presentation was very interesting for me. You said that the first virus imported from Wuhan. So either the first virus was exported by China or by India. One has to know in the future that who is the originator of sending these viruses. So let us come to to Shamim Saab. Shamim Saab is a civil servant, and I would call it a civil servant because civil servants and the people who are in the armed forces never retire. They are always called civil servants and the armed forces servants. And he has a lot of experience, and he's like, he was in commerce, he was in so many government departments that whatever we have spoken, he has something more to speak about. He can analyze, he can comment, and he can even correct. So Shamim Saab, I think now it's your turn. Please join us. Shamim Saab. Shamim Saab. Shamim Saab.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you, Jabbar sir. Thank you so much for conducting this meeting. So I think, first of all, let me thank all these speakers who have presented their perspectives of the impact on entrepreneurship and enterprises. The impact of COVID-19. So I think a very useful and very good perspective. So let me thank all of you. I would particularly like to thank Dr. Khizran Zehra who spoke from Netherlands, and Dr. Kamariah Ismail, who spoke from Brunei. So I think thanks so much to both of you for finding time to join us. I think I'd just like to say that all the speakers have presented their perspectives and very useful. And particularly, it's been a pleasure for me to listen to all of them and to you, Jabbar Sahab. So I think very briefly, I would like to say that the common issues discussed, of course, was the issues relating to the financial issues, the supply chain issues, decline in demand, of course, and unavailability of labor, transportation issues, etc. So these are issues which we confronted when this COVID came to our country as well. But I think as let me say that Dr. Shoaib, who opened the discussion, who introduced the subject, I think he very rightly said that, of course, emphasized that these are major challenges posed by COVID, but then there have been great opportunities. I think the opportunities have been very, very, very well elaborated by Mr. Tahir Mahmood Chaudhry, who spoke on the digital push which this COVID has given to us. So I think Jabbar Sahab mentioned, of course, he, with his experience of the Federation of Chambers of Commerce and his WTO and international bodies, I think he talked on, he spoke from the perspective of the international and regional issues. And I think he naturally said that perhaps that we need our central bank should have done more to ensure that whatever packages they have announced go to the weaker sections. But anyway, but I have my own views on this subject. I'll just say a little bit more on that. I think, Doctor, I was particularly, Professor Anwar Shah, of course, talked of the various kinds of funds which are used in the case of such shocks to the economy. A very useful, I think, view that he gave us. But I was particularly excited to hear Dr. Khizran Zehra, a very exciting study that she introduced us to, that she is doing on micro enterprises and micro entrepreneurship in less privileged sections of Pakistan. I'm very keen to see the results of that study, some of the observations she presented to us. But I think she looked at the Hazara community and the Afghan refugees. I think this and some of the recommendations that she gave also very important for they needed to have a platform to promote their whatever they're doing, the micro enterprises actually. I think Dr. Kamariah gave us the perspective from Brunei and Malaysia, very useful as usual, as in most of the countries like Pakistan as well. The impact, the losses in aviation, in hotels, and in tourism. Now these, of course, and the number of persons who are were laid off. I was very happy to hear Mr. Tahir Mahmood Chaudhry Sahab, and I think the work that he's been doing, and the impact and the digital push, what has it done to education and universities. I think it's something very, very important impact and a very important positive impact of this COVID. that the universities now the online learning which is being promoted, and the help and the support, I believe, of HEC in this regard. I think I would like to interact with Mr. Tahir Chaudhry to know a little bit more on what exactly is being done. But it is so. This was very great, and I think if I've not missed anybody. So I think all these the presentations were very useful, and I think, as usual, I think we must thank SDPI for providing a platform for discussing issues which are very, very important nature and policy issues. I would just like to say that I think we should not underestimate or undervalue the support which the central bank has given to Pakistan. In fact, it reacted very positively on to the COVID. Now, if I was just looking at the figures, so as of yesterday, there are quite a few. Now they, of course, we know that they announced a package of 1.3 trillion rupees. And now I think as of yesterday, the State Bank website shows that more than rupees 650 billion worth of loans have been deferred. So I think they announced this deferment of loans well in time, and a lot of companies, a lot of enterprises have got relief from that. They also provided loan rescheduling worth 215 billion. And of course, we are aware of the refinancing facility which they provided to the enterprises to prevent layoffs. And I think refinancing was at 2%. So this is, I think, this is for the first time I noticed that the central bank has come to and has promptly and sort of responded to the pandemic. Maybe as Jabbar Saab and some other speakers have also mentioned, it's possible that the benefits have not gone to the less privileged and the weaker sections of weaker sort of businesses and entrepreneurs. But I think on the whole, I think the State Bank's policy, the regulator's policy needs to be, I think, appreciated. Similarly, the SACP, which allowed the companies online filing, and they also allowed the annual general meetings to be held online. So I think they promptly sort of responded. So I would say that more or less generally, and of course the government through the AHIBS program has provided social protection to the lesser privileged sections of the society. So I think this has been a very useful discussion which had various sort of speakers coming from different backgrounds. And I think I would just like to again sum up that this COVID has impacted various enterprises differently. There are enterprises which have been helped by COVID. I mean, look at the pharmaceutical industry, the pharmacies, and of course many others. There are second category is also of some of the enterprises which have repurposed them. For instance, the transporters have moved on to home deliveries. This is another repurposing there. So they've responded. So it all depends on how an enterprise responds to a totally unprecedented situation. An unprecedented situation of such magnitude, which entailed lockdowns and curtailment of movement. So I think this of course affected the movement of labor also. But I think different enterprises have responded differently. And of course, there are many enterprises which have been very badly and adversely affected.
I mean, sir, if I may intervene, I think we're over time. Please wrap
Okay, okay. I think I'd just like to thank you again, Jabbar Sahab, and all the speakers. And I think this has been a very useful discussion. And some of the I think the outcomes of this discussion perhaps will be recorded by the team of SDPI. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, all the panelists. It's been a great discussion. We've all learned a lot through this day, and of course, me and Dr. Kamariah both with our discussion with the IT department, trying to get her voice back on track. So we've learned more than all of you. So on that note, let's catch up some other day on some different discussion, and maybe we can continue from this, or maybe have an entirely different discussion. But thank you very much, all of you, for taking out the time. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.